Have you ever wondered what it really takes to go from a cramped apartment on Chicago's South Side to the grand halls of the White House? Not just as a first lady, but as one of the most admired, fearless, and influential women alive. This is not just Michelle Obama's story. It's the story of rising when the world tells you to stay down, of turning doubt into destiny. And once you hear how it all began, you'll never look at your own challenges the same way again. Before we begin, if you love powerful, true stories that light up your spirit and keep you hooked till the end, hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear will leave you inspired and maybe even a little speechless. Now, let's step into the life of Michelle LaVaughn Robinson Obama, the girl who dared to dream beyond the walls that tried to contain her.
She was born in January 1964 in a modest home on the south side of Chicago. The apartment was small, just one floor of a brick building, and yet, to young Michelle, it was the center of the universe. Her father, Frazier Robinson, worked tirelessly at a water plant despite suffering from multiple sclerosis. Her mother, Marion, was the quiet storm, wise, calm, and unshakably strong. There wasn't much money, but there was something far more valuable: expectation. In the Robinson home, excellence wasn't a dream, it was a standard. Michelle and her brother Craig shared a single room divided by a curtain. Each night, they'd hear their father's slow footsteps down the hall, his cane tapping the floor, his voice filled with love as he asked about their day. Those moments left a mark deeper than any lesson in school. She once said, "Failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result." And that belief, planted in childhood, would guide her forever.
From the very beginning, Michelle stood out. She wasn't just smart, she was brilliantly focused. In second grade, she was moved up because her teachers saw her potential. But there was one thing she didn't see coming: doubt. When she told her high school counselor she wanted to go to Princeton University, the counselor looked at her and said, "I'm not sure you're Princeton material." Imagine hearing that at 17. Most people would have taken it as truth. Michelle took it as a challenge. And here's the first hidden gem. Michelle Obama didn't just get into Princeton, she graduated with honors. But even then, she wasn't done proving herself. After Princeton came Harvard Law School, one of the toughest in the world. She was surrounded by students from wealth, power, and privilege, yet she held her ground, powered by determination and the voice of her father echoing in her head, "You can do anything." When she finally landed a job at a top Chicago law firm, Michelle thought she'd made it. The corner office, the paycheck, the suits that screamed success. But life had other plans, and his name was Barack Obama. Yes, that's right. The future president of the United States once walked into her life as an intern. Her intern. At first, she didn't take him seriously. He was charming, a little too confident, and drove a car with a hole in the floor. But something about him, his conviction, his calmness, his sense of purpose, caught her off guard. And soon, her life took a turn she never saw coming. Here's the second hidden gem. Michelle initially refused to date Barack because he worked under her. She thought it was unprofessional. But fate had other plans. One ice cream date, one conversation that lasted hours, and the rest, as they say, is history. But love stories aren't fairy tales. They're tests. When Barack decided to enter politics, Michelle had doubts. She had a steady job, a growing family, and a deep love for privacy. Politics meant chaos, scrutiny, pressure. But she also saw something in him, a spark that could change the world. So she stood by his side through every speech, every loss, every sleepless night.
And here's a third hidden gem. Michelle once said she felt like a single mother during Barack's early political years because he was always away campaigning. But instead of breaking down, she built up her own voice, her own strength, her own mission. She fought for working families, education for girls, and community health. Long before the world called her First Lady, she was already a leader, one speech, one neighborhood, one family at a time. Then came 2008. The world watched as Barack Obama ran for president, and Michelle? She was thrust under the brightest spotlight in the world. She was analyzed, criticized, and misunderstood. Every outfit, every word, every gesture was picked apart. But she didn't flinch. She said, "When they go low, we go high." 5 words that became a global mantra for grace under fire. And in that moment, Michelle Obama became more than the First Lady. She became a symbol of dignity, resilience, and power wrapped in kindness. The White House years weren't easy. Behind the glamour, there was exhaustion, isolation, and constant judgment. But Michelle turned that pressure into purpose. She launched Let's Move, a campaign that transformed how America thought about children's health. She planted a vegetable garden at the White House to inspire families to eat better. She became a global advocate for girls' education, visiting schools across continents and telling them, "Your story is what you have. Make it count." Here's hidden gem number 4. Michelle Obama's White House garden grew over 55 kinds of fruits and vegetables, some of which are still grown there today. But behind every smile on those stages, there was also pain. The pain of being misunderstood, underestimated, and constantly compared. Yet she endured. And more than that, she thrived. After leaving the White House, she didn't step back. She stepped forward. Her memoir, Becoming, broke records, selling millions of copies and turning into a global movement. She filled stadiums not with rock music or politics, but with her truth. Her story, raw, real, and radiant, connected with people everywhere. And here's the 5th hidden gem. When Becoming was released, Michelle's book tour outsold every presidential memoir in history, including Barack's. But beyond the fame and the titles, who is Michelle Obama? She's the woman who still remembers her father's hands gripping his cane. The girl who was told, "You're not Princeton material." The mother who balanced raising daughters in the world's most famous house while protecting their normal childhood. And the leader who never stopped believing that kindness is strength. Michelle Obama isn't just a story of success. She's proof that your beginnings don't define your destiny, your courage does. And the story doesn't end here, because even now, Michelle continues to inspire, mentoring young women, creating global education programs, and speaking about leadership with heart. She once said, "We need to do a better job of putting ourselves higher on our own to-do list." It's not just advice, it's a reminder that even the strongest need to care for their spirit. Her life is still unfolding, and the next chapter might just be her most powerful yet. So if this story has moved you, inspired you, or made you believe a little more in your own potential, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for part 2. Because we're only halfway through Michelle Obama's incredible journey, and the next part will reveal how she turned challenges into movements and left a mark that will echo for generations. The White House lights went dim. The motorcades disappeared. The cameras packed up and moved on. But Michelle Obama didn't vanish into silence. She was only getting started.
After 8 years of being one of the most recognized women in the world, she faced something unexpected: stillness. No more official events, no more endless schedules. Just space. And in that space, she began rediscovering herself.
She had spent years being First Lady. Now she wanted to remember who Michelle Robinson, the girl from Chicago, really was. It wasn't easy. She's spoken openly about the emotional crash that came afterward, a sudden sense of, who am I now? And that's the first hidden gem of this chapter. After leaving the White House, Michelle admitted she suffered from what she called post-presidency depression. But instead of running from it, she faced it head-on, talking about mental health, self-care, and the need to rest after giving so much of yourself to the world. She began writing. Day after day, page after page, her memories poured out like healing rain. The laughter, the tears, the lessons. Every moment became a mirror for someone else's story. That writing became Becoming, a book that wasn't just a memoir, but a movement. Readers saw themselves in her, their fears, their triumphs, their quiet hopes. And when she went on tour, something magical happened. She filled arenas like a rock star. But instead of music, there was honesty. Instead of noise, there was connection. She stood before thousands and said, "I'm just like you. I've been overlooked, underestimated, and told I don't belong. But I'm still here, and so are you." And that was the moment Michelle Obama stopped being a former First Lady and became something greater, a voice of an entire generation. Her influence stretched far beyond speeches. She became a cultural force, a storyteller, a mentor, a symbol of hope, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. She launched the Obama Foundation's Girls' Opportunity Alliance, fighting to ensure every girl, no matter where she's born, can learn and lead. She championed education, nutrition, and equality, the same causes she'd started in the White House, now freed from political walls. But behind the success was still the heartbeat of family. Michelle always said her proudest title isn't First Lady, it's Malia and Sasha's mom. She raised her daughters under the world's microscope, with every camera watching, every word dissected. And yet, she managed to give them a normal childhood in an abnormal world. She cooked family dinners, attended parent-teacher conferences, and made sure the girls cleaned their rooms just like anyone else. One interviewer once asked how she kept them grounded. She smiled and said, "Because I tell them, you may live in the White House, but your housekeeper's name is still Mom." That's hidden gem number 2. But even while being a mother and mentor, Michelle never stopped evolving. In 2020, the world locked down, and so did she. Yet she used that stillness again, this time to listen. She started a podcast, raw, personal, and deep, inviting people to open up about life, love, and loss. She spoke openly about the struggles of women, of balance, of aging, of what it means to find peace when the noise fades. And people listened, millions of them, because Michelle wasn't speaking at them, she was speaking with them. Here's hidden gem number 3. Michelle's podcast became Spotify's most streamed original series within weeks of its launch. But there was still more to say, more to teach, more to build. In 2022, she released her second book, The Light We Carry. It wasn't about politics or fame. It was about how to stay whole in a broken world. She shared stories about fear, marriage, friendship, and faith. And one simple message echoed through every page. Even when the world feels dark,
your light still matters. Her words became a lantern for millions, especially young women who felt invisible. And maybe that's Michelle's greatest power. She doesn't stand above people. She stands among them. Yet, if you think her journey has been all grace and confidence, think again. Michelle has admitted many times that she battles self-doubt even today. She calls it the imposter syndrome, that nagging voice that whispers, "Do I really belong here?" But instead of hiding it, she exposes it, because she knows vulnerability is what truly connects us. And here's hidden gem number 4. Even after becoming First Lady, Michelle confessed she often felt invisible in rooms filled with powerful people. But every time she spoke up anyway, she gave permission for millions of others to do the same. Her impact keeps expanding, from mentoring underprivileged girls to producing documentaries with Netflix like Becoming and We the People. Michelle's storytelling continues to empower and educate. Her projects highlight one truth over and over again. Change doesn't start in power, it starts in people. She once said, "Success isn't about how much money you make, it's about the difference you make in people's lives." And that's the legacy she's still writing. Now, imagine this for a moment. A little girl on the south side of Chicago, staring out a tiny window, dreaming of something bigger. She had no idea that one day she'd walk through the gates of the White House, not as a visitor, but as the First Lady of the United States. And when she finally stood there, she didn't just bring her own dreams, she carried millions of others with her. Michelle Obama taught us that power doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it wears sneakers, speaks softly, and listens deeply. She taught us that leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, it's about being the most authentic.
And maybe that's why, even now, years after leaving the spotlight, her influence still grows, quietly, gracefully, like roots under the surface. Here's one final hidden gem. Michelle once said that one of her greatest joys was sneaking out of the White House at night, disguised in a baseball cap, just to feel normal again. Because, at her core, she's still that same girl from Chicago, curious, brave, grounded, and endlessly hopeful. And that's the truth behind her magic. Not power, not fame, but humanity. So the next time someone tells you you're not enough, remember Michelle's story. Remember how she turned "you're not Princeton material" into "I'm changing the world." Remember how she faced criticism, fear, and doubt, and still chose kindness. Remember that grace is not weakness, it's strength under control. Michelle Obama's story isn't just about becoming someone great. It's about becoming yourself. And as this journey closes, here's your final spark. If this story inspired you, if it reminded you of your own light, your own potential, then don't let it fade. Like, share, and subscribe, because we have so many more stories like this waiting to ignite your soul. And remember, you may not always have a comfortable life, but if you do the right thing, you'll have a meaningful one. That's the Michelle Obama way. Fire and grace, courage and compassion, forever becoming.